and I'm here with my co-host Dan Robin. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How you doing, John?
Good. I usually ask you about your traveling because you're this international traveler, and I know you've traveled this week, but I'm not even going to get into it.
Yeah, I don't think we have time. I think
No.
we got to talk to our guest.
We get an awesome guest today. I'm super excited about it. So, this guy's a UFC veteran. He's had many fights in the UFC actually, and he's been a pro fighter for a long time. And he's a Boston native. And since we started this podcast, we were thinking about trying to get this guy as a guest, and our producer Dimitri pulled some strings and got him here. So I'm excited to have Mr. John Howard here. How you doing, John?
Good, and thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure for sure. And John, so what we often talk about here is just people's interest in martial arts and fighting in general, because most guys are fascinated with fighting. That's why MMA is so popular, you know.
Right.
Now, and we usually ask people, what is your first experience with fighting? Do you remember, were you ever bullied as a kid or have any story like that when you realized, oh, this whole fighting thing is important?
I was raised in Dorchester. At the time, it was like the most dangerous neighborhood to be in. We call it the red zone, and I got jumped a lot. You know, I got beat up a lot.
Yeah.
And after years and years getting beat up, you kind of just get frustrated when you want to defend yourself. So when I started to learn to defend myself, it helped me. You know, that experience of coming in the neighborhood where you have to fight to survive helped me to get in martial arts and actually become a great martial artist as I am right now. So that's where I started from.
Where did you start? Where did you first learn how to fight? Who was your first teacher?
My first teacher actually was Job Corps, with MMA version, was a freestyle grappler. And he just knew grappling, and I knew how to like street box a little bit like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, all right, man. He asked me, do you want to spar? I was like, sure, I want to spar. And I thought I was going to go out and just tear him out with my hands, and I'm from the street. And he kept taking me down and just doing unbelievable stuff. It was just magic. I'm like, yo, how are you doing this? I got so frustrated. I was like, all right, you win. How do you do this? And he taught me. And when he taught me the basics of grappling, submission grappling, what it was, and then from there, I graduated Job Corps. I came back to Boston, found a jiu-jitsu school, and from there, just took off.
So how old were you when you had that experience?
I was 18.
18.
I was 18.
But you had some fighting experience, like you said. You figured some stuff out by yourself in the streets, sort of like getting in scraps with people and whatnot.
Yeah, they had a lot of community boxing things and stuff like that. So I learned how to use my hands a lot. You know, basic self defenses like that. I couldn't get into boxing because I come from humble beginnings, so I didn't have like the support I needed at that time. But it was a good eye opener, and I thought for sure one day when I had the money and had the time, I was gonna be a boxer. God only knew I was gonna be an MMA fighter instead.
Now, were you a fan of any particular boxer when you were a young guy?
Mike Tyson. I love Mike Tyson. He was short, stocky, powerful. He's an inspiration because I was always the shortest guy around my friends, and his movement and everything he did, and his power he delivered. I always inspired to that. I always want to be something like that.
Yeah, he was a sensation. So when you are shorter, you kind of get the negative attention, right? People might think, oh, this guy's not that tall. Maybe I'll pick on this guy.
Yeah, all the time because I was short, and you know, I have a speech impairment. You know, I don't know if y'all know, I'm clinically autistic and everything. Coming from all these stuff that I had in my past, you know, I was an easy target. So I always got picked on or bullied on, and so that definitely pushed me into martial arts and being the guy I am right now.
And I'm thinking when you were a kid, they probably didn't even diagnose anything. It was just like you're just whatever, short and
at that time we didn't have the technology, and that it wasn't a thing. You know, being on the spectrum wasn't a thing. We never had no clue about it. And when I finally was on the spectrum, I was in my 30s. You know, so I had no clue. And when I finally got tested, I was like, oh, that explains a lot of stuff I was going through, and it helped me to better myself actually. But at that time, we didn't have all that. It was just, oh, okay, there's something wrong with you, and you was pushed to the side, you know, and you was like putting sped and stuff like that, and not really looked at as something to be worked on. It was like, oh, okay, you're qualified as this, and that's it.
Dan, were you ever picked on? We talked about this, right? You're not that short though.
Yeah, I was good at I wasn't like fighting my way out, but I was good at talking my way out of things. Sort of like,
You used another skill set.
Sort of being either like either like getting everyone laughing at the person who was going to pick on me, or like getting that guy laughing, or just kind of
That's a good strategy too.
Kind of getting out of it one way or the other. But I mean, everyone used to get picked on because, as we said in here before, now bullying is seen as a bad thing, but I think back then it wasn't even seen as a bad thing. The bullies were like popular. Like it wasn't. Now kids in school will say, like, you're being a bully, and people are saying, I'm not a bully. But back then they'd be proud to be. No one thought it was bad to be a bully back then.
Yeah, and I remember back in those days, they used to say, "Oh, bullying is necessary. It teaches you about life and everything." I'm like, I don't know about that, because there's certain extremes of it. So I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. But
can I skip that lesson? Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of parents used to say more. Some still say it, but a lot of like, I got to toughen my kid up and sort of put them through bad things to toughen them up. And now that I have kids, it's sort of like, well, I don't know if I need to toughen them up. I mean, just,
I think a lot of the dads who aren't that tough want their kids to be tough. I see that. I'm like, you got to toughen him up. I'm like, you're not that tough yourself. So I don't know. Maybe you should work on yourself a little bit while you're at it. So Mike Tyson, and he was picked on too as a kid too. So I could see that as your inspiration. Now your fight name is Doomsday.
Yes.
Now, is that somebody that you were a fan of, or did that just come in the fighting?
That's came in the fighting. What happened is my brother Henry Ainsley at the time, we was trying to come up with a fight name, and I was supposed to be John Superman Howard. I was like, no.
All right.
I'm not
I remember that.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I was like, listen, that's just, I can't. That's kind of corny, dude. You're like, well, how about Doomsday? Doomsday kill Superman. And I'm like, yeah. I made a joke like that, John Doomsday Howard. So we said it, but we kept saying it, and more we said was like, yeah, that sounds right. It sounds right.
Yeah.
And then from that day, right before my fight, I became John Doomsday Howard. And then it's funny because the whole Doomsday character I love, like, I feel like Doomsday was a misunderstood person, being. But he was powerful enough to kill Superman, even though he got killed in the process. Like, I give him much respect because he was the only person at that time that could go toe to toe with the baddest man on earth, and he did it.
He's kind of an outsider too. He's not like the most popular guy.
Like I feel my character of Doomsday, like when I see him and like study him, it's like he's not neither bad or good. It's just his own path. Because in the comic book version, he was like on the extreme thin line where people forget he wasn't only considered a bad guy, killing like all the Justice League and everything. Also the Injustice League, whatever, they didn't like him either. So both sides were trying to kill him. People forget that. That's how powerful he was. That either side could stop him, because he was just walking his own way. And in the comic book, he freed the bad guys, but he freed it by accident because it was in his path. They were like, listen, thank you for freeing us, but we're those bad guys, and they tried to kill him, and he killed them instead. So he was killing literally everybody. It's like he has this god complex, but no followers. And it's almost like he doesn't want followers. It's just he just wants to be a being, but he has no choice but to defend himself when time comes to defend himself.
I like what you're saying, that he's on a path.
Yeah.
And I find for people, for men in particular, if they have a path, that's almost everything, right? Everything falls in line when you have your path. You don't get distracted by things here and there.
And that's why I love the whole Doomsday character, because he's his own way. He's not neither good or bad. He's his own path. Like everybody sees him as like automatically, oh, he must be a bad guy. And I'm like, no, guys, if you really listen to the story and see what he really is, it's just he's literally on his own path. He doesn't care. He's like, listen, y'all do y'all thing, good or bad, with evil, but he's on this neutral line. Like, look, I'm doing my own thing, but if you come into my way, get ready to get destroyed. He's
not trying to impress anybody.
No.
He's doing his thing. Do you find you're on a path? Do you have your path?
Yes, I have my path, and I feel the exact same way. In my career, I have my ups and downs, and I feel like I've been judged a certain way through my past and stuff like that. But that's why I get a look at that character and inspiration Doomsday, because it's like I'm on my own path. I'm at a point in my life where I do my own thing. I'm not listening to people near say I should do this, I should do that. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it my way and just keep going. And either if you try to get in my way, if I got to destroy you, I got to destroy you. If you don't, I'm keep going. I'm doing my own thing.
That's very. Now, have you felt there are times in your life where you didn't have this, where you were off the path a little bit and you struggled?
Yes, because at that time I was young, maybe a little, not necessarily confused. I was just young and trying to follow, the thing to do. You know, it was a point of time like, okay, you gotta be a trash talker, or you gotta be impressive, or you gotta do this, or you gotta hang with this one, you gotta do this one, or you gotta be friends with this guy, or all this stuff I did in my past is because I thought I had to be something that I truly wasn't not. But now that I don't know how to be that, I don't have to, you know, involve myself with the nonsense and be in my own path. You know, it's crazy because, you know, you try to get successful in MMA and you see other people's success and they're successful like Conor McGregor. You know, he's a great trash talker and all this. So that was a point in time. It was like, okay, to get the big bucks and others, you got to talk all this trash and be like that. But it doesn't work for every people, like every person. Like, I can't do what Conor's doing. You know, like Conor does what's right for him. Right. And I have to do the exact same thing what's right for me.
And doesn't the organization sometimes behind kind of encourage that? Like, you know, they'll say, go up there and, you know, if you go up there and say something, or because I think I've seen it, we've all seen it, like GSP was encouraged to go up and trash talk Matt Hughes. It just seemed kind of awkward and kind of funny. And I know other fighters that were kind of told, like, you know, just say something.
Well, everybody's
you know,
trying to
call
do
this
it
guy
now,
out or call that guy out.
I don't know if you're back in the day, before UFC went prime time as it did, you had to do this interview. It was black and white, and you had to talk trash. Well, what they used to make you do it, they make you talk trash and say all this negative stuff. Yes. And it used to piss me off. I'm like, guys, I'm not that guy. Listen, I just
so you'd be like sitting in a room in a chair, and they'd be like, and they'd say, you know what he said about you, or something like this.
They say this, they say something about your mother, or this and that. They say this, so they try to implement this like to make you angry. That's why like people used to spaz in that interview. Like, why is he spazzing? Like Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans almost got in a fight with the interviewer because they didn't like his responses because it wasn't mean enough. It wasn't crazy, and he was like, "Look, I'm just not that guy. Yeah, I fight. Yeah, I bring." You know, the business to the cage, but doesn't mean I walk. I don't want there was this chip on my shoulder looking to like destroy everybody. So that's what I mean. You know, coming up in the MMA world, you was forced to make a look a certain way, which you truly wasn't, and because you know work for that league and they wanted to push like that, you tried to make them happy because you want to work, but you kind of find out that you know that's not your way and kind of break off from that.
And I think when these guys copy or mimic Conor, which so many guys are doing now or trying to do, it just doesn't come off right. You could tell it's not really him, so it doesn't work so good. I think Conor is a sensational guy, and he created himself, and I think that's him. Like, you know, he's kind of acting, but that's who he is, and that's why it works so good for him, I think. But when other guys try to do it and it's not really them, it doesn't work as well, you know.
Yeah, and people would try to imitate Chael Sonnen just prior to Conor.
Oh, right,
you know, that would be, sometimes it just seems there's guys right now that just don't seem kind of.
And
legit.
I think when Conor did it, people weren't doing quite as well. So then he stood out because it was different. But if everybody's making the same noise, then nobody stands out. It doesn't really work, you know.
Right.
Exactly, I agree, and that was the problem. It's just like you're trying to do is what sells, and then what everything what necessarily sells not be for you, and that's the situation with a lot of these fighters, especially these young fighters, where they're so trying to be like this badass. You know, I scream and yell. I'm disrespectful but respectful, but there's have this whole persona, which is like, and you look at them like, yeah, that's not you, bro. There's no way.
Like that's why we just had the Khabib McGregor fight this weekend. I thought Khabib would do well because I think he's a real sportsman. Him and his dad, like they look at it as a sport. They're like, we're going to win this match. We're going to take the optimal strategy. You know what I mean? We don't need to impress anybody. They show that old video of him with the bear and all that, but they've been playing a sport for decades, and they're like, we're going to go in and we're going to get the W. You know what I mean? And we don't have to knock you out early. We don't have to do anything but win. And when you come at it with that approach, it's pretty effective. You know what I mean? And it's consistent. Like you said, they're being themselves, and he can go in there and win that way. He doesn't have to focus on all the other stuff. Just focus on your job and winning. I think that really works.
Exactly, and that's what I appreciate. And actually being with this new league, PFL, Professional Fight League, that's what they implement. Like you don't have to make this persona as not you. They say, listen, right now it's a sport. Okay, you go in there, you do your job, and whatever you do, whoever the personality you are, use the personality. So that's why I really appreciate PFL for taking me on, and also the mean tournament didn't helps too. So that's awesome.
Now I watched it the other night. Where can I watch the PFL? I did watch some fights the other night.
Yep, it'll be on NBC Sports.
NBC Sports.
All right, I'll fight October 20th, and I have 2 fights in one night. So
that's old school, man.
Old school. I'm like, yes, bring the old school back. I love it. I'm so happy for that.
Is it like a tournament?
It's
like
a tournament.
4-person.
It's for these next fights, it's an 8-man tournament, and the last 2 guys standing fight in the finals for $1 million. But it's 2 fights in one night, and it's crazy. We haven't seen this in the States in years. The last time we saw it in the States was in like UFC, like the first UFCs, and when they kind of outlawed it. But now that they found a way where that you can fight twice a night, the way they do it is like the first fight's 2 rounds, 5 minutes each. Whoever wins that fight goes on to the semifinals, which is 3 rounds. So that's the way it splits up because
it's 5 rounds total.
So it's 5 rounds total. So because in the States you only can fight 5 rounds. That's it. Right. So they split up like that, which is I think it's genius. It's genius. Fans get a treat. They get to see a fighter fight twice in one night and really get to see the aspect of like old school MMA.
That's very cool. Yeah.
And you know your first round opponent?
Yes. His name's Samir Gagazen. I'm sorry, Samir. I can't pronounce your last name. You're Russian. I tried, and I'm not gonna try anymore. But I just call him Gagastan. That's why the kids out there are Russian. So, yeah, he's a pretty good guy. Pretty good stand-up. I fought his teammate. I beat his teammate, and I think I have a pretty good chance against him. But he is undefeated, and he is definitely legit.
Yeah, I looked him up. He's is he Russian?
He's Russian.
And he's one of these undefeated Russians with a lot of fights. It's not like undefeated 3-0. It's like undefeated with like, I don't know, 15 fights or something, a lot of fights. And he also looked bigger than you. I saw it was like 6'3" and like 205.
Yeah.
And you fought at 170 at some point, right? Like,
yeah, I used to fight 170. I fight 185 now. Excuse me. I think he did fight at 205 one time, but now he's coming down the weight in 185, so that should be interesting, the weight cut. But yeah, he's a bigger guy. I think I have a lot more skill, a lot more offer to bring, and I have a lot more experience. Even though he's undefeated, I've fought in so many guys around the world that just the same as powerful aggression he has, I'm gonna have the same thing. It's gonna be 2 bulls clashing together, and the outcome's gonna be the outcome.
Pretty much everyone you fight is taller than you, anyways.
Yeah,
that's nothing new. Yeah,
I'm so used to that. I prefer taller because that's how I've been fighting my whole life. Fighting someone taller is a lot easier than someone fighting shorter. When you fight someone shorter, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's a weird concept because a lot of stuff you can get away with being short, you can't get away with someone the same height as you.
And where's that fight gonna happen at?
Washington D.C. The ESA Arena. They're just opening it up, and I'm excited. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Very cool. And I saw your other victory in the PFL. You got the rear naked choke. Was that on his teammate?
Yeah, that was his teammate. Yeah. And he never been finished before. I was the first guy to ever finish him. So it was a good victory. It was a good way to prove that I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I was like, I haven't submitted somebody in like almost 7-8 years, and to get my submission game back up was one of those times like, yes, I'm glad to be that.
Now, do you have a basic strategy, like I'm gonna go in there, work my striking and try to take the guy down and ground and pound, or do you just sort of play it by each opponent and so forth?
For each opponent I have a strategy.
Yeah.
I'm fighting for years. I definitely have a strategy. I see where this guy's power points are and his weak points, so my whole strategy is to expose him, whether it be going striking, taking him down, or taking him down, whatever he's weak at. We have certain things we think he's weak at, and we're just going to expose it that night for sure.
Yeah, because I know you've had a lot of effective strategies over the years. You've had the big leg kicks. You've been really good with that. Power punching, takedowns, submissions. So you can win a lot of different ways. So
yeah,
it's pretty exciting.
That helps.
Yeah.
So no, I'm looking forward to it. I feel anywhere this fight goes, I'll be comfortable enough, and I can either put him where I want to, or I could defend myself if he puts it where he wants to. So anywhere this fight goes, I'm just as dangerous as him, if not even more dangerous.
And now, do you still live in the Boston area?
Yes, I'm not the Boston area. I live on the outskirts.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to say where because just in case if I blow up, but I'm still in the Massachusetts area. And
where do you do most of your training now?
FAF kickboxing right there in Holbrook, 275 Center Street. More than welcome to come down. Shout out to Sean Graham, my new trainer, and he improved my game so much. Amazing trainer. He's also he trained Butterbean for his MMA fights, so that speaks well.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so it speaks in difference himself.
Now, what are the main differences that he bring to you?
I fell into the Muay Thai, old school style with the heavy leg kicks and stuff. And he was like, "It's time to bring my boxing back. I'm really athletic. You know, I have good footwork. And before I started Muay Thai, I started boxing. I always had great hands. So now it's combined the two, but I have a more boxing stance where, because I can move and I don't have to stand in front of my opponent in chalant and caveman fight, as I call it, I can do most angles and more power and use my hips more better than instead of depending on the Muay Thai. So he opened me back up to that, and it's been working. It's been amazing.
I think that's one of the things, Dan, that people don't appreciate so much, the fans, is footwork, the importance of footwork. When I watch fights, the fighters with the better footwork almost always win. Not always, but almost always, right?
Agreed.
Because you can put yourself in a position where it's hard for the guy to hit you, but you can hit them,
Yeah.
Yes.
I was also just thinking that even from, you started long enough ago that I think even when you started, there was sort of like, you'd have like a stand-up trainer that came from, a boxing gym. So like, I think one thing that's been changing in recent years is people trying to put together your MMA game. Instead of like, let me go work on my hands with this guy and my jiu-jitsu with this guy, and maybe bring in a wrestling coach to stop the take. Now it's like someone like you're saying, your current coach is like, how do we work on your MMA game and getting you with the best approach you can have?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. Like, it's with the new culture of MMA, it's not necessarily being the best in everything. It's putting everything together. Like, I could be the best striker, the best grappler. I could be number one in each discipline, but you see it, if you can't put it together, it doesn't work. I meet guys who are great boxers, great Muay Thai kickboxers, world-class wrestlers, world-class judo players, jiu-jitsu, all that. But the problem is, when it comes to MMA, they don't know how to put together. They are so used to separating. When it's time to put it together, it just doesn't click. And so you learn that even though you can master every single art in MMA, but if you don't know how to put it together, it just doesn't work. And now it's a new generation thing where you work on your MMA game, putting together where you should blend your wrestling to your boxing, where you should bring your boxing to Muay Thai, where you should bring your Muay Thai into your jiu-jitsu, and all the ways around, and just keep mixing and mixing, so it's to better yourself.
Yeah, it's all slightly different. So, collegiate wrestling or amateur wrestling isn't exactly the same as MMA wrestling, right? So that's a kind of a tricky part, because you could find somebody who's an expert at wrestling, but maybe they're not an expert in MMA wrestling, like how to set up the shot, how to defend your takedowns and all that. So it is complicated, but people are starting to figure it out now. I think that was probably one of Khabib's advantages too, because they're doing combat sambo their whole life, so they're combining it the whole time. So they kind of get it.
Yeah, they definitely have a head start of the whole MMA new era of it, and because they know how to combine it, and where to not to do something and where to do something. That's why it works for them. So, and that's what it is. We train so many different arts, but we don't train the combat art for putting together. But now we're finally starting to do it, and that's why you got guys destroying it with. They're not necessarily great of one thing, but they're jack of all trades, and it just comes together well.
It's even like, if you look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you look at the sport of it, they're saying, here's how you, it's supposed to simulate a fight. Here's how you win a fight. You take somebody down, you pass their guard, you mount them, or you get back control, and then you submit them. And now some people in MMA are like, yeah, I don't really care if I get to mount. I'll take the guy down and maybe from half guard, pummel him, or some other position, just beat the stuffings out of him and then finish him. Like, even when Khabib got the rear naked choke, he really didn't have back control. He was behind him and he got the choke. So it's almost like maybe Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that model isn't precisely the best model to win a fight anymore. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. And the way the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is evolving, there's no safe positions where we're taught excuse me, we're taught that the final position of dominance is mount. It's not no more, because you can mount somebody and still get submitted. That's the new era. Like, we've seen people who being on top mount be dominant, and it's the dominant person getting submitted. So there's no safe place no more. So that's why, like, you have to find where you're most comfortable at and go there. So now it's not to this point, like, listen, this is what you can do, or do, but what works for you has to work for you. It doesn't mean, you have to do it, because you're absolutely right. Like, I'm coming from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We was taught take down, pass guard, get to mount, go from there, and either finish or just beat them up. But now you can't do that. Now there's guys that purposely let you take that back, or purposely let you mount them, and you get choked out. You know, I mean, I seen in jiu-jitsu tournaments, guys purposely let guys take that back and they loop choke them.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
That's
that's
baseball bat choke.
baseball choke, and it's like you're in, you have a dominant position, but you're still being choked to sleep. That's crazy.
And then in MMA, sometimes with the gloves, if guys know how to defend back control, it's not that bad. Like Damian Maia sometimes would get guys, and they get up against the fence, and they sort of ride it out, and they don't get submitted, and they don't take too many punches either.
Yeah.
You know?
Like it's not a big deal. Like back in the day, people used to spaz in back control, but now that they know what back control is, you're absolutely right. People just ride it out in position, and then this funky submissions where even though you have my back, no, I can still submit you. So it's like it's a comfort zone. When I want to submit somebody, do I want to submit somebody having their back? Do I want to submit somebody in guard? And some people I feel better submitting people in their guard or in side mount or half guard, like you said. You know, there's so many more fucking things that now that's coming out. It's like, you know what? Now we don't have to do it the traditional way of passing. We can literally get to one position. If not one position, do what we do best.
Now, do you have a favorite submission right now that you tend to get more often than others?
My submission is I like the chokes.
Yeah.
Because it gets slippery with no gi and with the gloves. So with chokes, and once I get someone's neck, it's usually in there. If you
like rear naked choke.
Yeah, rear naked choke. So that's my thing. Arm bars arm bars, you slip out too much. Right. Another submission for chokes is triangles. Triangles, you can't slip out as much. Like you still can, but it's easier with having a triangle. Even if the guy fights, you know, you can cinch it up at it when you go for an arm bar. If you don't have the perfect position or perfect timing, even if you do so, that little sweat or a little grease, you still get out. You know, I see guys in perfect position, but because they have sweat, they just slip out, and all that work is all for nothing.
And in the cage, you pretty much have to put people to sleep or get them really close to going to sleep before they're going to tap anyways. Like some guys, like I think that happens, Dan. Sometimes in the gym, people get caught and they just tap, and you're getting the wrong message because you didn't really get the guy yet. You know what I mean? In the cage, where you better be putting the guy to sleep, or you're wasting your time maybe.
I teach my students like be ready to like really finish it. Be ready to like put someone to sleep or break it. Because if you don't, if you get put in position and you look at the guy, look, I have perfect position, perfect technique. They're gonna look at you. Okay, break my arm. And then if you're not trained to go for that break, you know, you might lose a fight. I see so many guys who go in the cage and be these world-class black belts, and they so used to going with each other where, you know, they get positioned like, oh, the position is perfect. I don't want to break your arm, and they tap all the good sportsmanship. I'm like, no, this sportsmanship is different. It's like, yeah, we're sportsmen, but go for it. You have to really, really go for it. And if you don't go for it, you know, you might get in trouble. The guy might escape.
I was at a jiu-jitsu tournament this weekend, and something like that happened. This guy, pull guard, got this guy in a deep triangle, like immediately, and the guy just wouldn't tap. And you could see the guy applying the triangle was like, what is wrong with you? Don't you understand you're supposed to tap right now? And then he was arm barring him. The guy just couldn't, he wouldn't tap. I thought he was going to get his arm broken. He did it like 3 times to him, and he exhausted himself. And then he basically quit. The guy passed his guard and dominated him because he's like, the last 1,000 people I've done this to have tapped immediately. And this guy was too dumb to tap. But you know, I'm just kidding. He wasn't dumb. He was just a tough guy, and he wasn't having it. And he's like, no, you got to really do it. And the guy ended up dominating him. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I've been to tournaments and I see that a lot where they get positioned. Like, you got the submission, but they're not applying the right pressure. They're not really going for it. And you see guys, some guys will hang out there. Some guys will just like, all right, you're not choking me. I'm not going to sleep. And there we go. I mean, I seen one guy got put in a Kimura online, and he went and tapped, so the guy had to snap his arm. And you heard it was like, I was like, oh. But that's the difference that people understand, is that you have to be able to go to the next level. And I feel this generation, because we're so safe hazard, that we don't train the next level. We train, you get there, okay, you won the fight, you win. This is the purpose of it. We don't train to really like go for it. Like, no one knows, not two people knows what's the feeling to break your arm. You know, for me, you gotta know.
When I was a white belt, Kenny Florian was a purple belt. I trained at Boston Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I would train with them, and we would have like a match. And basically, I had some wrestling. So every match, I would take him down, and he'd put me in his guard, and he'd armbar me so hard it would almost break my arm. It'd be like, ah, and and I'd be tapping frantically. And I think my elbow's still sore from it, and that doesn't happen anymore. People don't do it that way. You know what I mean? Like they don't slam on the arm bars. You're right. Everyone, it's. But I guess if it's a hobby, you got to be a little bit safer if you're not really fighting.
Right. That's what's different between sport jiu-jitsu and combat jiu-jitsu. My opinion is combat jiu-jitsu, you really have to really go to the next level. And it's hard to find training partners who are willing to let you push them to the next level.
Dan is almost impossible to choke, John. We got to have you try to choke him. He's got like some anomaly in his carotid arteries. Like you could squeeze his neck.
Are you serious?
That's totally serious. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? I can be choked.
Okay.
I always say around the gym, it's like everyone's like, he's impossible to choke, and you just see all these like monstrous guys, like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh no,
I'm gonna choke him. No.
Because then other times, so now then they're choking me, and I'm like, well, now I have this reputation that I can't tap, so I end up not tapping, but then driving home like, like maybe I got a headache and my neck hurts, and I'm like, I'd rather just tap. But to your point, the way it all comes together, sometimes I can tell they've got me, and they're just choking me, and like. And the whole thing is that I just feel like, let me just hold on another couple seconds. A lot of times people go like, and they let it go.
All right.
And so to your point, you know what I mean? Like, you're sort of like used to people just going and tapping. And then if you just wait a little longer, first of all, you can get out. And secondly, people are used to just thinking they don't have it. And I'm like,
they make some kind of adjustment, and they actually loosen it by accident.
If you just kind of kept choking me, I probably would have tapped. You know what I mean? If you just kind of kept at it, you do that sometimes, where you just kind of keep at it. You adjust a little more, you get a little tighter, and then sooner or later, you have to tap.
Oh yeah, and I know exactly how that feels, because like that's my reputation. Believe it or not, it's I'm hard to choke because I have a thick neck, and people will put me in a position like, oh, I got you. I'm like, yeah, but finish me. And they forget, like, a lot of jiu-jitsu experts will purposely give submissions, where they feel comfortable. Where I know I met guys like Boogeyman. He's the one guy where Dean Lister, where you put him in a choke and he'll just sit there the whole time, and he'll let you choke him. And the reason why he lets you choke him is he's purposely letting you choke him so you get tired. So you fatigue. It's so deep, but it doesn't matter. You can't get it, and then you fatigue yourself. And then he has all the energy and dominate you.
And you get psyched out too. You're like, I just gave this guy my best, and it didn't work. So now what am I gonna do?
Yeah, it's like, not now what? And sometimes that's some guys' strategies. Like, listen, I'm gonna let him get my choke. And the old school way I was taught is always know what submission you could defend the best. So therefore, if let's say your jiu-jitsu was like, it's just sick. I can't do nothing. There's nothing. I'm gonna give you a position. Here's my neck, okay. And then you give him my neck, and then I know for a fact, like, okay, no one could choke me out, especially in this certain position. I put myself in a vulnerable position. I'll let you sink it in. I'm like, okay. And I sit there and wait unless you use all your energy. And just when all your energy is out, then you don't have the energy to do nothing else. Now I can pass your guard. Now I can take it back. Now I can take advantage of that.
I do that in training for my students. I let them get something, and I don't tap until I'm about to go out, so they get the right information. Like this is how you have to do the choke. You know what I mean? Because if they're training with people who tap too soon, it's almost like bad training. Like they're learning the wrong thing. They're learning like this is enough, and it's like no, that's not enough. It's tight, but you got to put me where I'm totally going out. No matter what the choke is, especially like some of those chokes like north-south choke.
Yeah.
Or arm triangle, where they can't really see the guy's face, so they can't see how much he's getting choked. So it's something that they got to figure out by feel and proper practice to know that this is really putting the person out. You know?
I agree.
I've been on the wrong side of it too, where like a guillotine and someone that just doesn't go. And I think you're hard to choke that way too, actually. But I remember Tateki was someone like that too, where I was just trying to just like choke, guillotining him, and he just wouldn't tap. And then I was exhausted. Just like you said, then you're just like, your arms are dead, and then he's out and he's fresh, and you're like, oh, it's really demoralizing.
Yeah, there's something weird that happens too, I think, in MMA fights where the guy has somebody's back. I don't know if this still happens, but I remember this happening, and the guy's trying to choke him. And he has his back maybe for 2 minutes, can't choke him. And then the guy gets out, and he gets on top, and everyone gets excited, and the round ends, and people perceive that that guy won because he survived,
even
though he was on the losing end of it for most of it. But sort of, he won psychologically maybe or something. And I think sometimes the judges score the round for the guy for for reversing it at the last minute. I don't know.
Yeah, Skip, because it's like the whole magnitude is like, oh, you have the back, so you should be able to finish him. It's like, no. If he's have a good defense, he has a good defense. I should get points for getting into position. And you're right, for MMA, they don't really score the positioning. Yes, they here and there, but they more to score the dominance of the positioning and get in the choke. Now, if you get positions, like, yeah, you got there, but you didn't do nothing with it, then you lost.
It's almost like the expectations. You see that where if the judges know this guy wants to take this other guy down, and he puts him against the cage and he doesn't get him down, they go, well, he lost. They go, well, he didn't lose. He didn't get hit at all. You know what I mean? Right. But in their mind, he didn't accomplish what he was trying to do, so it's almost a negative. But it really shouldn't be. No. You know what I mean? If he got close to it.
Yeah, the MMA scoring is still it's still one of those things is where you never know. You know,
I know.
You never know. It's like losses is definitely at the takedown, clear positioning. You know, I've seen guys who like basically stop the takedown the whole fight. You know, like and they get a takedown, but they don't secure it, and then they win the fight. It's like, wait a minute, how did he win the fight? All he did is defend. The other guy was attacking. All he did is defend the whole fight. He didn't hit him though. He just defended everything, but he was not that aggressive. But then he's like, oh, because his defense was perfect, but he didn't progress. He didn't progress.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Have you ever won or lost a fight where you were just shocked by the scoring?
I've been there a couple of times in my life, and I've been pissed. I've been really, really pissed. Like, this is unbelievable because you never know who scored, you know, and especially in the big events, what they do now is the judges change sometimes. Right, so you get one judge like, oh, okay, this judge is a black representing jiu-jitsu. This one's a box, okay, and then you get to the cage and find out, oh no, rotation. You're like, oh, are you serious?
And they have judges now that literally don't know one thing about grappling, right, or jiu-jitsu, or maybe even boxing. You do get boxing judges in there that have never rolled a day in their life.
And that's what it is, and that's what's hard. I mean, I'm glad more judges are starting to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that, and do more grappling. But if you get like a pure boxing judge, and he always looking is for like hits and everything, he's watching what he wants to see in the fight, not necessarily what's happening in the fight. And that's why I don't like with the justice system. It's like whoever's the judge is watching where that expert is and doing their judging. And if they see something that might look dominant, they might lean to that side, but they're not too short. And I don't like that, the uncertainty. Like, I kind of don't know who's in a better position, but I feel because he's on top, he's in a better position, like you said, taking someone's back. He was like, yeah, he has his back, but he's on the bottom. So maybe, and he got reversed him. So maybe it was his strategy, and maybe he won because he's on top. That blows my mind.
Now, how do they score the 2 rounds in the PFL? Is it the regular 10-9 scoring?
No, this is what they said straight up in the meeting. You have to win the first round. That's the only round they're scoring. It's the first round. The second round is if you know you lost the first round, the second round is to come back to finish the guy. But
so if you lose the first round, you got to finish the guy.
Yep.
That's probably a good way to do it. Otherwise, you'd have a lot of ties, right?
Yeah, you have a lot of ties. You have like equals. Like, no, the rule is whoever wins the first round goes in the second round is to give the other guy a chance to come back. Like, okay, I lost the first round, but now I have to fight this guy to finish. And
they motivate people to finish too that way.
That's pretty good. To come out real hard, like for the excitement, right?
So if the first round is close and you don't know, then you got to say, I got to go out and try to finish this
Exactly.
guy. Yeah.
And it's been a lot. There's been so many finishes in the PFL. Like, not too many PFL fights been going to decisions. It's been like flying knockout knees, slams, submissions. It's been insane, but it's more than motivation. It's what they doing with the league is they're motivating fighters to fight and not fight safe. You know, I feel other leagues have this safe haven where, like, okay, you do X, Y, and Z. Okay, I got 5 takedowns. I could just kind of lay back and they're that. In PFL, they're like, no, we want you to go to finish. If you don't go for this finish, you know, the fight's over.
You see that sometimes even with good fighters where, you know, they're so cautious because they respect the other guy. Then there's some fights where there's not a lot of action, and it doesn't make for a great fight. And then if you feel like the organization is going to hold a loss against you too much, that makes people a little bit more cautious too. Don't you think? You know?
Yeah, UFC was. I experienced it with the UFC a few times, where I felt like in a certain position where I had to do something or I had to be something, even though I was wanting to fight that. It was just a weird timing, and because if you lose a fight in the UFC, that's like terrible. You only get like 3 or 4 losses in a row and you're out. You know, that's for the most part. So like that's why like you get guys like, okay, I got a few takedowns today. Let me fight safe, because you're not trying to fight to finish now. You're trying to fight to still have a job.
Right.
You know, so it's different. But when you put in a position where like, no, listen, if you go to fight to finish this guy, not only you get paid more money, you know, there's better opportunity. And then when there's job security, you have guys, you know, going to fight. Where there's back in those days when I was in the UFC, like there was never really so much job security. You know what I'm saying? Because you know UFC, they used to cup guys left and right, and we're just like, wow, like that. He's a good fighter and everything.
And you could lose to, and like in your case, like to great fighters, you know, and you lose, and they're like, you're still out. Like it didn't matter that the guys you fought were killers, you know, top 10 guys.
It makes for so much better fights when people are really out there trying to finish the fights, you know. Like Mike Tyson used to do, and then I watched some old. I was a huge Marvin Hagler fan, of course. You watch some of his fights, it's like, oh my God, they're trying to kill each other. You know what I mean? They're not out there just trying to bip win a 10-9 round. They're really trying to kill each other, and it makes for really good fights when people are really going for it. You know?
Because good job security. When I first got kicked out of the UFC, I lost to Jake Ellenberger, T. Edgar Alvarez, and Matt Brown. Those are the top 3 welterweights in the world, and they're like, okay, you're fired. I'm like, guys, you give me 3 amazing fighters, killers, and I give them the business. I took him all the way. Jake Ellenberger was the only one at that time who finished me because he messed up my eye. But it was like, you're thinking like, I'm fighting these killers, and I have no job security. Like if I lose, that was the crazy part. I was like, we don't care how good they are. You lost, you're out. It was like, wow.
But also that set the stage. You just reminded me for one, like the favorite fight of yours that I was there live was the comeback from that. Like after those 3, right? You were out for a couple of years, and then you came back to Boston. And fought in Boston, and you were a late replacement.
Was that right? I was late replacement. I was fighting Uriah Hall, and I guess they couldn't find a replacement at the time. And right there and there, I was in the midst of fighting, and they said, "Would you go up a weight class and fight Uriah Hall?" I was like, "Absolutely," to get back into UFC. And I did, and it was a close fight, and I got a split decision over him. So it was.
But he was a sensation back then. Yeah. He was like the guy.
But also,
right?
That was right after. So my take was that he lost to Kelvin Gastelum, and
Uriah Hall did.
Yeah, okay, Uriah Hall lost to Kelvin Gastelum right before that. But my take was that the UFC kind of wanted Uriah Hall, like did they want?
Yeah,
because he had like Kelvin was kind of a grinder. Uriah was kind of like better spoken, better looking, looked more, and Uriah won by like spinning kick to the head, where Gastelum just kind of was grinding him out, and so they wanted to push Uriah Hall. So my take of why I really loved that fight was that my take was they were like, let's bring you in as like a dangerous opponent, but you're like a weight class down, and like they kind of were like Uriah will probably win, and it'll be like a launching pad, and you just weren't having it. Like that was my impression watching it. Like it was like John's not going by the script here. Like John's really coming after this guy. And you know.
I was like at that time I was like, listen, you give me a chance, I'm gonna take it, and I did. And I mean it was a good fight. Uriah Hall hits hard, and but every time he hit me, I was like, every time you hit me, I was gonna hit you harder. Every shot I was gonna hit you. I'm gonna let you know, like you come with anything, I'm gonna hit you just as hard, and it worked. We thought that Uriah Hall was a great striker, a great knockout artist, but we don't know. We figured he didn't like to receive the big power. So when he kicked, I do my heavy leg kick. He didn't like that. So that was the mind game we played, and it worked.
Now, when you went into that fight, how were you feeling about it? I mean, you were excited to get a UFC fight, but you're going up a weight class. You're a big underdog. Did you feel no pressure or a lot of pressure? How did you feel?
I didn't feel no pressure.
Yeah.
It was funny. I made a joke to Uriah Hall. I came to him. I was like, you know what? You know what's best about this situation, man? I was like, I have no pressure to win. I'm not supposed to win, bro. Everything is on you. I was like, and I was playing with his head like, oh, you're supposed to win. Oh, the superstar, you're supposed to win. Oh, so I kept
that stuff works on you.
Oh yeah,
too,
it
right?
does. Because like the UFC puts, because I know how the UFC are. When you're supposed to win, they put so much pressure on you, and they backed him so hard. So I was like, oh, you're supposed to win. You're the winner. I'm the underdog. And I was going to the fight like, you know what? I looked at him like, I can lose this. Yeah. I was like, so I could kind of play around. So it messed with him, and I think that's why he hesitated, because especially when I was coming back, he was like, "Oh man, I gotta take him out, And when stuff wasn't working, he tried to rechain and reevaluate the whole situation. I just got playing into that, like, the pressure of the UFC's putting on him. So I used it against him, like, yo, they want you to win. I was like, yeah, and I was boosting him. Oh, this is Uriah Hall. He's the best. Oh my goodness, he's such scary. Like, I did that, and for me, in my head, it worked.
And one more funny thing about, if I remember it right, I think that was when that event was when Conor first came to Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like everyone was kind of surprised at how loud it was and how all the Irish flags
crazy,
and
yeah.
like, and so it was a big Conor night, and you kind of took the crowd after, like, you came out and you were then your fight was like another huge highlight of that event. You know.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I can say one thing. I can say, and Conor, all respect, I could say that on the Conor fight, Conor was the undercard and I was the main card. That was the only time he was the undercard. When he came for, I mean, he got so much love in the undercard fight, but I was like, well, Conor McGregor was on an undercard, I was on the main card. That's crazy, because look at him now. It's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Funny side thing about that night too was, since I was there with some Straight Blast guys and friends of John Kavanaugh's, we all went out to meet Conor afterward. And I guess now everyone knows Conor's late to a lot of things. So we sat around till like 2 a.m. And then I think about 2:10, I was like, look, I'm not staying out all night to meet this guy, Conor McGregor.
Right.
And I laughed, and apparently like 4 or 5 minutes later, Conor came in. And like everyone that I was hanging out with.
He was outside waiting for you to leave.
Everyone that was there that I hung out with for hours that night have all these pictures of them and Conor, like all the arms around each other, and like 5 minutes before I was like, I can't wait around for this guy. And that was a lot. Then, I was like, you know what? Maybe next time he comes to town, I'll meet up with him or something. And that was.
You should. Next time he comes in, you should meet up with him.
We'll see if he'll just come out to the bar next time. Same place. I didn't realize that any of this, that'd be by far my last chance to do anything like that. 5 minutes.
It's funny, like, and then I got my picture with Conor too. I was like, yo, come here real quick, man. I took a quick picture. I was like, yo, I said, I see great things for you, man. I was like, yo, this is your world. Have fun with it, man. He's like, thank you, Doomsday and everything. And he's honestly, Conor in person, he's the coolest dude. When you got his good side, but when you're fighting him all, man, he's definitely that dude. He don't give a.
Yeah.
He knows how to say the worst possible things, right?
Oh, yeah. He knows how to get people under the skin. When he gets people under the skin, it's amazing.
Well, John, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier that I think is really interesting about being on the path. Can you share a little bit more personal information about that? How do you view your path? That you're a fighter, or can you tell me a little bit about that?
I view my path as a martial artist who is a fighter. I'm a martial artist first. I'm really into the martial art. I'm real disciplined with that, especially being a black belt. I still do stuff like, let's say I come to your school and you're on the mats, and before I walk on the mat, the traditional way is you don't walk on the mats. You wait for your attention. I ask your permission. May I come to your mats? And then you say I bow and do my thing. So that's why I like to keep the tradition in the arts. A lot of people, especially during the generation, I feel are forgetting all the traditions of MMA and what martial arts is supposed to be. They get into the whole spectacle of the sport, but forgetting the tradition on it. So I still keep that, like even Muay Thai with the monk call coming in and doing the wire crew and all that. That's the way I see. That's my own path. I feel that yes, I am a badass fighter, but I'm a martial artist first. So it shows the discipline. Like I'm a badass fighter because I'm a martial artist, and that's my whole deal. And that's what I want to bring back to the sport. But listen, the old school way is the old school way, and y'all need to respect that where it came from. Like the reason why all this is happening because these guys did it the traditional way. So let's bring respect to them and show the great masses, that we're still a martial artists, not just some fighters, who learn these techniques and disrespect all the different martial arts and not hold the tradition, And I'm sick of that. I hate seeing that when these kids do certain stuff on the mats, and I'm like, no, that's nice. You could do that stuff, guys, but no, there needs to be some respect and tradition right here. You don't walk on my mats without permission. You just don't. You don't walk off my mats without asking the bathroom. I mean, I be teaching some kids, and they'll just go in the bathroom and ask my permission. I'm like, come back, 100 push-ups. They're like, what for? I'm like, you didn't ask permission. I'm like, back in the old school days, you did that. They wouldn't let you back in the mats. I'm like, when I was learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there was so many restrictions and stuff like that. I remember there was a time when white belts couldn't grapple. White belt was the only to learn and observe. And then if someone picked you a belt higher, a blue or higher, then you was welcome to grapple. But nah, you sat there and grappled, and you have to wait almost like 6 months to a year to maybe get some grappling. That's the old school I come from, and I feel like, with this young next generation, they kind of lost a little bit of that, and I just don't want that to be forgotten. Like, listen, let's hold some kind of tradition for MMA, because MMA is starting to lose its tradition, and we need to get back to tradition. I think, because if we don't, we have crazy events like what just happened with Khabib and stuff. That was,
I tell you, when GSP came back and fought Bisping, he did it as a martial artist. I view him as on that path, and I thought it was amazing. It was so refreshing to see that humility and respect. It was remarkable, in this atmosphere of the opposite of that, of all the craziness and trash talking. It was so cool. So, I'm right there with you. I
Does that mean you would, now that you've had time to reflect and you've been around for a while, like you would never, because of what you're saying, you would not do trash talk and you would not do
No, I feel like if someone says something to me, I would respond properly and everything, and I would say, like, if they say something left field, I'll respond like, listen, man, okay, you want to say that, you bring in something personal to the issue, and then maybe say something to get out of character. I feel, when someone gets out of character, that you could respond, in self-defense, but I want to be traditional as much as possible. Like, the one thing, it's funny, I was just talking to one of my students how I feel about Khabib doing what he did. I said, honestly, I felt like Conor kind of dragged him out, that negative character out of him, because he was saying, listen, don't trash my religion, don't trash my father, don't trash my country. I'm not doing that. Let's keep this as a sport. No, F you, all this, and Conor's drinking and being obnoxious and everything, and it's like, that's not a good representation of the sport is. You go to a press conference, you're bringing alcohol and all this, and Dana White's there drinking and everything, and it's like, guys, come on, man, let's keep it professional. You can't do that in no other event. Any major boxing event, you never see Mike Tyson, and he's, does some wild stuff. He never been on a press conference with alcohol in the situation. No other organization ever did like that. And then to let the UFC to allow that, it's like, come on, man, you're making us look like this is a spectacle. This is some WWE stuff now, And Khabib was like, yeah, discipline, no, cool, I'm just gonna fight you, and you can see he's getting pissed. He's like, all right, I'm gonna fight you. And then the reason why he reacted after beating him, that came out of him, and he apologized to the world for doing that. But he's like, but this guy took it to the next personal level. So like yes, he was wrong for it, but in a way you can't blame him. I was like, because when you promote that violence and stuff is okay, that's not cool. That's not okay to promote that. As a sport we have, typically we pull like we just like these ignorant savages, which are not, and I don't like that.
That reminds me of that story. You ever heard that one about the samurai whose his patron or whatever gets assassinated? So he goes to find the guy's killer, and he finally finds the guy, and he's going to get his revenge. And the guy spits in the samurai's face. Mm-hmm. The samurai gets pissed off, so he puts his sword away and leaves because he doesn't want to do it in the heat of the moment. He wants to do it the right way. So he comes back the next day, and when he's cooled down, to do it. So that's kind of the martial arts path. You know what I mean? To not get influenced by the madness and the spitting in the face, even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so you're always going to be a martial artist.
I'm always going to be.
That's your path for life.
That's my path for life. That's all I want to promote. I want to be able to fight, know how to fight, and be just as dangerous as the next fighter, but still have the same respect, And it's funny. It's like if you even look at the war times, okay, these guys hate each other, right? But they still have respect for each other, like for certain traditions. Like listen. Someone got killed or someone died, I need to have a funeral. Okay, well, 3 days of no war. Okay, they can still shake hand in hand and have a talk with each other. Like, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you, and everything, but out of respect of what we're doing, we can still have some respect and talk to each other like human beings and get back to war later on. That's what people understand. Like, you can still be at war with somebody, but you can still have this form of respect. It doesn't have to be all hate. Because in the back in the day, it's like, yeah, you might kill me, we might do this, but we can still have a peaceful talk. Have respect for each other because we're men, we're martial artists, we're fighters, we're warriors. There's times to be warriors, but there's time to be men and sit down and have a conversation.
So if you don't have the respect, then it's all madness.
It's all madness. Yeah. It's all chaos, and you see it. Yeah. It's chaos. with KO, it's like a fire. You set a fire. If you don't contain that fire or control the fire, it just blazes and burns everything down. You know, it's a wildfire, and like yes, we don't have that fire instinct to have that passion, but it needs to be controlled.
You're saying Conor like brought that fire out of the ring, right? When he was throwing the hand truck and all this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that was that was crazy. To pick up a dolly and throw it and like come on, almost move someone's career. I was like all right, Conor, that's a little too far, man. Like I understand when you're trying to do it, maybe you're trying to put on a fight, but what if you ended that poor man's career? What if he can't see out of his eye again? Imagine that. Imagine he wasn't had nothing to do with it. He was an innocent bystander.
Michael Chiesa, right?
Yeah, yep. And he was like, oh, got glass in his eyes. Like, come on, man. Like, if the injury was serious, it could have ruined his whole career. You know, it doesn't matter if he got money to pay for it. Like, I don't care. A fighter's a fighter, or at least you want to enjoy your health as much as possible. But to ruin it, like, no, that's too far. That's the madness I don't want to see in the martial arts.
And so when you're on that path, it simplifies your life in a way. Like you're saying, you're like Doomsday, the character. You're not affected so much by the noise over here, the good guys or the bad guys.
Nope.
You know what you're all about. You're on your path. In your case, you're a martial artist. So you know how you're going to deal with today and tomorrow and next week and next year and so forth.
And that's my new path, you know. Before I was young, I was trying to be, I was trying to be a spectator, I was trying to crazy, and I gotta admit, like, I was like partying a lot. I was trying to be with the in crowd, be here, traveling, doing stuff I didn't really have to do because I was just trying to entertain and be that guy.
Live that life.
And then come to find out, like, and the whole time it was like, yeah, this is cool, but this is not really me. This is not what I'm about. I'm just doing this because I'm trying to, promote myself and do it what I thought would please, others. And I'm not about that no more. I'm more about pleasing myself and having my way, and being a martial artist keeps me sane and it keeps me on my own path.
And when you finally finish your MMA career, I know you had a long career already. Will you be a teacher then? What do you think? I think
I'm gonna be a teacher. I actually want to get into choreography for movies. I want to do.
Right.
I that's what I want to do. I want to touch the MMA base of choreography. I think it's coming down to it, but I want to see what we see through a fighter's eyes, like what stuff looks on camera. But I also wanted like people to see like what MMA has to offer, even that it's not as flashy as like the guard, but what we can really bring to the table and be more interesting. And I think because our generation is more into jiu-jitsu and MMA, that the choreography that you used to see on screen would be totally different. It would be more realistic, where you see something like you see a move that maybe you spice up a lot, but it's like realistic. Like like it would take 1 in a million to hit it, but it's possible. It's like a guy doing like a flying black from the armbar, like good stuff, man. But you was real fortunate. But if they feel it's more real, it's more realistic, I think you'll watch that.
Definitely, yeah.
I remember the first time they brought MMA was that first Lethal Weapon movie. They one of the Gracies choreograph it.
I think Machados or Gracies?
No, sorry, was it Machados?
Yeah.
Sorry, it could be. But I remember that watching it at the time was before I was training, and it was sort of like, what is this final fight? Like, it was even all, you know what I mean? Like, he triangled them, and like watching the final fight was like, at that time it was all Chuck Norris spinning back kicks, and it was like, what is even happening? Well, it kind of like they were fighting in the rain. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
it was sort of like armbar and like triangle. And as a kid, I was watching like, this is like a really weird and bad final fight.
Well, it's funny. You can go back. I saw this really old clip, John, of who's the actor? Jimmy Cagney was a judo player apparently, and he has a fight scene where he does real judo, man. He's like throwing these guys like into boxes and doing tomonagi, shoulder throws, and punching. It looked awesome, like real fighting. And, this is like, I don't know when it was, in the 40s or something. And then in the 60s, you got like the old Star Trek, and what's his name? William Shatner's getting a double fist on somebody's back, and he knocks him unconscious. I'm like, how did the guy get knocked out? How did he not break all his fingers?
Right.
Yeah, for a while it was karate chop to the neck would knock people out.
Yeah. Then, but now, like John's saying, people are more educated, so you have to have real fighting. You know what I mean? Like, I guess Clint Eastwood, he's just punching people. That's what we knew back then in the 70s and the 80s too. But now people know more, so it has to be better.
And like you said, it could be like a low percentage move, but at least it's real. It'd be like that would really work if you landed it.
Yeah, exactly. Like a flying heel hook that and this is something got caught in before. Dude, well, if you try it 10 more times, probably won't happen. But that one time you tried it, like, it happened. So I think people want to see that entertainment part where, like, especially imagine, like, you know, a guy's losing and out of nowhere, you know, backflip to an armbar, flying heel hook, and you like, yeah, you got lucky, but that's so real. That's more realistic than like.
Remember the Rio Choni and Anderson Silva fight back in Pride?
Yeah.
He's basically losing the whole fight, and at the end, he does that takedown into the heel hook.
Yep, that's right.
Did you see that?
I saw that.
I thought, is that real? Do you think that was real?
Yep.
Yeah,
I thought so.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. Honestly.
That was amazing. Yeah, he was an exciting fighter back then, man.
But also movies. One thing movies still haven't quite learned is that choking someone doesn't go immediately from struggling to dead. Like that's what they have to start learning. Like someone's like fight, and then they're dead.
They're dead.
Like even the public is going to start to think like when that happens in a movie soon. Like you know there is like a period in there of just knocked out, not dead.
Right. You need a couple of minutes at least.
Also, there's the knocking people out, and they're out for like you know, like
the
if there's a guard, yeah, just like knock about like
right.
Okay, that guard's out. Like people are going to start to learn, like you know, we could wake up. Like
nobody ever gets up kind of groggy and staggering around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Once you're, that's the other thing. After you're knocked out, you're up just like you're
Right.
just back in it.
No, it's funny you said I watched Archer on FX, and I don't know if I can say that. Sorry. And it's funny. There was a scene where he chokes someone on. And he takes a gun and kills him, and he saves him. Like, he's like, "Why'd you kill him?" He's like, "Look, this is not the movies." he said straight up, "Listen, yeah, I can knock him out, but he's gonna wake up literally like in that minute. If he wakes up, this is all screw. Like, this is not the movie. We kill people. Like, you didn't have to kill."
So that's that's the kind of choreography you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have him killing people after they knock him out. Yeah.
like realistic. I like that. Dude.
That makes sense. That does work. That's really funny. So I think we've been here an hour, John. So I just want to acknowledge you for being a martial artist. I'm so impressed with that story that I'm going to think about Doomsday. I don't know a lot about the character, but this concept of being on the path and being sort of, you know, the concept that's I've been thinking about a lot because I'm a martial artist too. I consider myself that, is being unshakable, sort of like not being moved so much by the people around you necessarily and the craziness and the events. And I think that's the epitome of being a martial artist, is being able to stay on the path.
Yeah,
no matter what's happening.
Yeah, see, the way I look at Doomsday, even though he comes out as this violent character, I feel because when you look at him, he walks that middle line of the yin and yang. Okay, and what it is you got the good guys and the bad guys. They always all attack him. Okay, but when he attacks him, he just defends himself. But once you leave him alone, goes a path, he stays on his own path and he just minds his own business. The thing is, once you attack him, he fits. But so I feel like that's the chaos. It's constant chaos. All you do is you always constantly. But if you stay on that fine line, you know, maybe tee the top here, there. But once you get back to that center, you'll be all right. And that's my way now. So I want to be able to, you know, jump to side, but always stay on my.
That's real
path.
Strength, right? When you can stay to that path. And you know, I've been watching you fight for so long. I've seen you fight in CES, the UFC, everything, and I've always appreciated the way you fight. You always have come to fight. You know, when you get in there, you're bringing it. And I've always observed you as a respectful martial artist. And you've always been respectful to me and everyone that I see around. So I think you've always been on that path, and it's inspiring to me, and I hope it is to our listeners too. You know, that's what we want to see, a martial artist who's living the path. And, you know, at the moment they're an MMA fighter too, but they have a more important path that's longer and goes beyond, you know, the event. And I want to, you know, I'm looking forward to see your fight. So it's October
20th, NBC Sports. It'll be Washington, D.C. If you're in Washington, D.C., if you get out there, tickets are 50% off right now. If you can't get out there, it'll be on Facebook Live on PFL. And if not, NBC Sports.
Awesome. Dan, do you have any final question?
No, great.
And if it can...
So you say you know you choked out, right? So I want to see if I can make it, because I have a special choke.
Like, you got to do it.
Are you crazy?
Yeah, come on.
We got to record it. So someone got to record this. Like,
it's being recorded up there, John. Yeah.
Hold on, but I get the tap, right? Like,
no, you get the tap. But they say you can't be choked. So like if this works and stuff,
Of course I can be choked.
We definitely doing this.
All right, let's do
John's hard to choke too, by the way.
You're way harder than me, Dan. You got to admit it.
No.
Right, so
This is
just
awesome.
tap with- just
I'll
with-
tap quickly.
It's kind of like a guillotine type choke.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, wait, just ready? All right. Tap with the hurst, okay?
High elbow guillotine. Look at that. Look at that, John. It's impressive, right?
Yeah, this is
I would have
impressive.
tapped way sooner.
That was impressive. That was really impressive.
That is awesome. That's a beautiful choke, man. I like that choke.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that too. I learned it. I learned it.
What did you do? You put the elbow.
So when you do the choke, that this.
How do you
elbow-
grab your hands, John?
Reverse gable grip. So what I do is I come in here, literally like this. Just do this.
Ah.
Okay. And what it is like once the
Reverse.
choke in, okay, you put this part of the elbow on the line of my spine. It can't be my shoulder. The shoulder I can like pop it out. But if you put it on the line of my back, it's stuck. The best thing about that choke is if the guy takes you down and he could put me in mount or side mount, whatever position you put
You don't
me in.
need your guard on him.
Nope, no guard. You don't need no legs. You don't need nothing. Any position you land, the choke's locked in and you're going out.
John, I'm doing this for the next 2 weeks to everybody I get my hands on. In the
Every single time.
Choke me.
That's it. All right, let's make sure you get it right. So, all right, come here. Yep. Yes.
All right, I gotta try it on Dan.
Yep.
You gotta give. Let me try it on Dan, John.
All right.
I'm coming through like this.
Yep.
Reverse
First, and get this elbow to his spine. Again.
Yeah, my arms are too short. And my hands are too.
Too short. All right. So this is you. So since it's too short, I want you to literally pray here.
Yeah.
The more you pray, the better. You pray, and then to the prayer, then you should be able to do it. Yep. So that more. Yep. More. Yeah. Now do it. Yep. That should be in.
He's too tough. That was awesome.
Now I just leave with. Now I forget like the numbers. I'm always like, that's what I used to say to John. I was like, I'm hard to choke, and then I'm like, but then I come home and I'm like with my kid, like, what's your name again? So I'm trying to tap faster now.
All right, I think we're still recording, so let's wrap it up. Yeah. So
Wait, all this choking?
all this choking's all on the podcast. So I want everyone to remember Doomsday,
Yeah.
be on the path. If you have any interest in martial arts, if you're practicing martial arts, think about being a martial artist. Be more respectful, and that's what I'm
Maybe
taking
even
away from
be
the
on a
podcast.
path, but even if you're not a martial artist,
I
right?
think so.
mean,
Yeah.
keep-
Yeah. You
keep
don't have
the-
to
keep the
necessarily
noise
train. You
away.
can have a martial arts mindset, for
Agreed.
sure.
Before that, I got you a few
Yeah.
shout outs real quick.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dave Ginsburg from Ginsburg Jiu Jitsu, 2000 Cambridge. That's where I got my black belt. They're one of the best black belts in my opinion. Shout out to FAF, Sean Graham, kickboxing. Come see him. Great trainer. Great fitness trainer too also. If you want to catch me on my IG, John Doomsday Howard on IG, John Doomsday on Snapchat, John Doomsday Howard on Twitter. Anything John Doomsday is me.
Awesome. So that's it for this week. I look forward to coming back next week. So please share this podcast, subscribe, and review it. All right. Thanks so much.
Cool.